Okay. Meg, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. It's a little quiet on my computer, but I can hear you.
You know what? I'm just realized, let me grab my headset and see if maybe it makes it louder. Let's try this for a second here. Does that make me any louder for you, Meg?
No.
No?
Maybe it's just me. Is anybody else having a hard time hearing Ashley? You guys can just type in the chat screen. She's good for you? Okay. Maybe it's just my computer. I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay. Interesting because, all right, I'm just going to take this thing out because I don't think it's doing anything to go. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome. It's so nice to see. I love going through the names over here. Thank you for so many of you coming back every week. It's so nice to just feel this time together, to just have this anchor, a little regularity or some kind of schedule in the midst of the things maybe bleeding together a little bit in the days right now. So welcome back, everyone who's been here with us. Welcome for those of you who are new. I'm Ashleigh, and this is Meg. Meg, say something so your face pops up.
Hi. Here's my face.
And this is a community call we've been doing for our Experience Alaya community, and of course, everyone's welcome. Before we get started, just do a little tiny bit of housekeeping here. You know, I am seeing that it doesn't seem to be messing up so much with everyone's video being on. So I think it's lovely if you want to keep your video on, by all means, keep it on. I will ask for everyone to turn their audio on to mute, please. So go into the bottom left-hand corner of your Zoom window and click on the mute button. This will help to keep the background noise out for all of us. Another thing that you could see is in the bottom of your Zoom window, there's a little like icon with some people on it. And if you were to click on the participants thing, it'll show you everyone who's here. So you can kind of scroll around and see who's here. You may know some folks. Also under the chat, if you click on chat, you'll see on the right-hand side, it'll pop up where you could type in and just kind of say hi, say where you're calling in from. So people will tend to, if you have a message for one of us while we're chatting, you can type it in there. And we will have a little time to share towards the end. And this is the space you'll also see in this chat window here where you can click raise hand if you want to raise your hand later when if we call on anyone to share. So the last thing is up in the right-hand corner, top right-hand corner, you can click between there being gallery view. If you were to click gallery view, you could see, boom, there's a whole bunch of people's faces. Hi, everyone. Hey. And then you can scroll through. That's what I'm doing. Hey, Crystal. Hey, Tiffany. And fam. We got the fam there. The Lancaster family. Hey. So sweet. Hey, Brian. Going through. And so, hey, Ariel. There you are. You're on my third screen. So you can scroll through. Hey, Em. Scrolling through to see folks. If you just want to have your camera off, by all means. And then if you want to click that same thing again, speaker view, it would just take you back to my face right now and Meg's or whoever's talking when we get there. Okay, so welcome and happy full moon. I'm not sure if anyone's feeling some of the things. Who even knows what the things are, right? Like we may all feel it differently. And yet I think we can all really agree that, you know, this time that we have right now to be home and to be inside and to be internal in whatever ways that is arising. Definitely provokes a lot of time for thought and contemplation. And so we're just going to continue our thread of contemplation. For those of us who were here last week when Meg led the call primarily, when we tuned into, really sitting and doing some meditation and then having the opportunity to do a little journaling and sharing. We're going to do a similar type practice this time. And we'll continue to pull the thread through. What we talked about last time was tuning into the ways in which, asking some of the bigger, more difficult questions for ourselves of, in what ways have we individually in our own lives contributed to the degradation of this earth? In what ways have we contributed to being kind of disconnected from ourselves, disconnected from the earth, disconnected from those of us, like the world right in front of us, are the people right in front of us? And we kind of did a little journaling and contemplation around that. From that space, I really sat with that. And just so you all know, anyone who was not here, you did not have to be here last week or for any of the calls beforehand to tune in with us. So just know that. And also know that Meg and I are here doing this work and these practices together with you. So this is all just a living, breathing conversation. And so that's where what we're going to talk about today has arisen from myself personally sitting with what Meg shared and writing and journaling and just kind of reflecting on the ways that I have been disconnected. And, what has arisen for me is just this, we're all being kind of like forced to sit down and be anchored, and just noticing how complex we have made our world and how complex we have made our day-to-day life. We talked a few weeks ago about just this, busy, and how many things we have going on and how many directions our attention is pulled into. And how this kind of dispersing of our attention and this complexity of our lifestyles can really fuel this false sense of not enoughness. Meg said something so great in our training in Costa Rica in October. She's like, we're running around trying to fill this void that doesn't even exist. And that just hit me really hard of like, oh, right. Like, what are we running around trying to do? What is this thing that we're trying to, that we've made so complex that we seem to think that we have to keep figuring out, we have to get all this new information in order to be better at this and know more about this. And like, why do we feel like we need to gather so much in order to be whole? So we're going to go into this thread a little bit of what does that look like in our own lives, of having made our lives complex, and how do we simplify? And I want to start by sharing a song that we can all listen to together. It's kind of like a song / spoken word thing. And so we'll sit with we'll listen. I invite us all to come to a comfortable, upright, seated posture. And if you have the capacity, to the best of your ability, bring your attention completely here into this space with one another. And I'm going to test this out with sharing my audio. And if Meg and I tested it, for some reason you can't hear it, bear with us for a moment and we'll get it going. But please take a comfortable seat. Just feel into this container of this community. 50 of us here from around the world, growing each week. And you, home, whether you are alone or sitting side by side with someone else, you, there with yourself. Most important and abundant connection and relationship of all. Just feel your breath move through you without trying to push it out or pull it in. Just feel life coursing its way through your being with every round of breath. Just feel yourself settling in. And with a gentle thread of awareness placed in the center of your heart, allow your ears to open.
I think if I could get you to do one thing, I would say when you get to the point that you really feel highly motivated to just towards keeping your virtue, then you'll discover quite quickly just how extraordinary a life was meant to be, could be. And it's just we get so messy. It's not that we're doing lots of wrong things, but our mind is so messy. We don't keep it simple. And we end up making the life that we're living so inordinately complicated. And completely unnecessarily. And it's such a shame to end up feeling in a real muddle when actually you ought to be having the time of your lives. It doesn't actually take very much to make the deepest part of us incredibly happy. You know, just to be here, just to appreciate being here. To feel that you're alive, to be in touch with your heart. That's it. That's it. It takes mindfulness to come to a human life. And then above that, it takes mindfulness and virtue to come to a fortunate human life. The chance to be part of this happens briefly. The invitation is not to show how inventive and imaginative you are, but how much you can notice what you've already got. And appreciate it and share it. And care about those that are around. Look out for their welfare while you're looking out for your own. That's it. And then you'll get to the end of it having had an awesome time. Knowing that that was something you'd recommend to others. You all know this place inside where it's going to run. You all know that when you let it go, it's like this black hole. You know it. I know it. Yeah, the world is creaking under the strain of this environment mass of humanity. And actually, it's interesting. When you came here with a sense of and wonder, dying to just see what it's all about. It's like, what would it be like to be down here? And you came here with a sense of wonder, and somehow the wonder of it wasn't enough for you. Stop wondering at it and started wondering about yourself. And in your wondering about yourself, you forgot what you came here for, what you came to be a part of.
Allow yourself to continue breathing. Letting the reverberation of the words, anything that it's brought into the forefront of your awareness. Just take a moment to anchor your attention back into the space of the heart center. As the breath moves in and out. I invite us first, a moment if you want to write or be journaling will prompt for that. But in this moment, still just being with the simplicity of your inhale and your exhale. And just how good it feels to be breathed. And what it feels like to be in this space of presence. Simple, vast connection. Your heart. Appreciate life moving through you. And even see if the turnings of the mind that have maybe sparked from the song and some of the questions, see if you can just even let those soften into the background for a moment. You ease yourself into this enjoyable, cozy space with yourself, here with one another. Noticing that all of the many things that we sometimes feel we need to get to this space fall away. For this place of fullness, pleasure, peace is closer than a breath away. There's nothing actually needed. To get here. This connection, this peace that we long for is right here within you, as you, in every moment. And then first, just dropping this question into the heart space. In what ways have you chosen to make life, your life, more complicated than perhaps it needs to be? And not that there's anything wrong with it. But just in this time that we've had over the last weeks, and with the changes in the world, sitting with the question of, what have I made more difficult, more complex, more busy, unnecessarily? Perhaps just feeling into the parts of yourself that are exhausted. If there's parts of you that just want to give up in certain instances of life, places where you feel like you can't quite get ahead, can't quite settle in, can't quite catch up. Places where you just wish you could get the one last thing done or experience the one thing in order to feel relaxed or complete or fulfilled. And then if it feels good to you, if you would like to journal, if you want to move into a space of writing, you're welcome to, just for a few moments. If you want to sit still with eyes closed in inquiry, or eyes open, gazing out in inquiry. In what ways, has it even been something that out of deep, deep, deep love for something, has that love, that desire become something inordinate, disproportionately complex or challenging, complicated? And the next space to kind of inquire within that is, what is it that you have been looking for or seeking? In this complexity? Is it perhaps accomplishment? A sense of fulfillment? A sense of pleasure or joy? And this could just, end up being a different access point in, the first question about where has it, you've made things complex, you may have just dropped right into things like, oh, this right here, or that may not have sparked it for you, and that's totally cool. I'm going to add another thread in here to this, which is, where is it that you have been looking outward? To seek whatever those little pieces that rose up for you, whether it's fulfillment or pleasure, accomplishment. Deep peace, relaxation. What structures have you created in your life that validate or support an idea that you kind of need to move outward or accomplish great things or achieve incredible tasks or check off a massive to-do list or in order to feel a sense of whatever that is for you, peace, accomplishment, pleasure. What ways maybe have you stretched yourself, your attention, your energy, your capacity in so many directions? And what for? And so, of course, we could go down, that's a whole space in and of itself to kind of explore there for a while. But I invite you just to like tap into one or two of those, and it may not have been the ones I mentioned. I said pleasure, accomplishment, peace, fulfillment, joy. But really tune into the sensation of one or two of those that you feel really connected to in this moment. And when you're ready, if you do have your eyes open or you're journaling, just invite you to close your eyes again, allowing those words or concepts to be present in your field. And notice them in your body in any way. Notice if there's a reaching for or a thought that arises that kind of pulls you towards that concept. Go, well, I do this in order to feel this. And notice if a thought comes in that way or in any way for you. Notice where that arises within your physical form. If there's a contraction or a change in your breath. When the sense and the mind usually kind of pulls us into a story around why we have to do X thing to feel X experience. And just welcome yourself back to the space of your heart center. And touch into the fullness of this moment. With the deep knowing that there's nothing to get out there that you can't get, or rather you don't already have right here within your own being. This great experience of calm, pleasure, peace, abundance that we feel when we connect to our heart, when we connect with one another. This is it. This is everything. Feel the direct experience of whatever it is that you maybe tend to reach for or seek for outwardly. See if you can have a felt sense of that existing right here within you. When you allow yourself to be present, to appreciate being present, be in touch with your heart. And begin to churn up the contemplation inside of you of what would it take? What would it mean for you to simplify? In what way have the structures that you've created to get you towards something that is really just right here within you? In what way have some of the things that you've maybe created made it harder or given you less time to actually be in this space of great depth, great peace, great meaning? The Kurt Vonnegut quote that I put at the beginning of the welcome to this call is, I am a human being, not a human doing. In what ways have you created such a sense of being a human doing that the time for being a human being has become more difficult to live in as a normal operating state? And so what would it take? Just think for a few moments, like what could fall away? what is extraneous? Because we, as human beings, were gifted and granted the capacity to know, the capacity to be conscious and to know we are conscious. And with that great gift, we were granted the ability to assign and give and infuse meaning into our lives. So as you connect to what is of value to you, what is meaningful to you to experience in day-to-day life, to live in everyday life, moment to moment. What would it mean to simplify? What would it mean to let go of? What could be shifted, released, transformed, simplified in order to create greater space for that which is meaningful for you at the deepest level? I mean, again, like we have this tendency to make it so complex. See if you can distill down, and if you want to journal, you can, or just contemplate. Like at its most basic and simple for desire, or meaning for you. It gives your life purpose and meaning. Where could you simplify? Where could you draw your attention more locally, more localized, more into your immediate life, that which is moving through you, right in front of you, all around you? And you don't need to have, to be really clear, you don't need to have a solution. There's no right answer or exact solution right now. We are in a process, a global process. Humanity is in a process of disentangling, of needing to simplify, of recalibrating, reattuning ourselves. So it doesn't need to be a direct answer of knowing how to do this, and don't let your end goal or your like clarity for like I need simplification in this way to block out like don't let the end goal or what you feel the solution is. Maybe you do have a solution. If your mind starts to, oh my god, I can't possibly do that because I have to make money by doing this, and I have to do this and that and this and that, like don't let that go to the side for right now. Let that drop into the background, and just feel, or even write down what could shift, what could be let go of. And there might be some sadness around it, like there might be like, I love that thing or the way of doing that. I'm really identified with that. Like I feel like I need that in my life. Again, we're not making any absolute decisions here, just starting to soften around some of the edges, soften around some of the things that maybe we really identify with as needing in order to, you know, uphold the structure of our life we've created. So just let all the practical things fade to the back and let that simplistic essence rise up. You don't have to know what it means. Just want to throw that out there because that's been big coming up for myself and Meg too. We've been talking about this. Is like, wow, like I don't know what this. I don't know how the hell this would look moving forward. I don't know what this means for X, my business. I don't know what this means for my travel schedule. I don't know what this means for my, you know, family exactly. Just, but you don't have to know any of that. Distilling down to the simplest desire of that which is meaningful. And just let that settle for another minute or so, and we'll get ready to open for some shares. I'm sorry, I don't know how to turn my sound off here. It's my baby sister texting me saying she wishes she was on the call right now. Sorry, I don't know how to turn the sound off. So as you're ready, if you want to just stay with your eyes closed, that's totally cool. If you want to allow your eyes to open, speaker view or gallery view is sweet to see one another. And so, Meg, I think I'll have to have you watch for raised hands. If anyone wants to share, I'd love to just open up, you know, you're welcome to share as feels necessary for you. And I'd also invite us to, if you want to share, just kind of following with the thread of the way that we unpacked this little journey of, you know, what ways have you created a lot of complexity, maybe some unnecessary complexity or complications or, you know, structures within life. If that question is like right there and ready to share, if it's something else, by all means. Anyone?
Okay, so we'll call on Trey here. Unmute you.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can
Yes.
hear you.
Awesome. Thank you guys, as always, for this week to week. It is so fulfilling, nourishing, everything. So thank you. I, at the moment you said we have become human doers as opposed to being, I was sitting here writing, I've been doing too much. And in doing so much, of course, I do music, so I've always feel all over the place, and in a bunch of different atmospheres and environments all the time, that sometimes I feel like I didn't create that experience, but for whatever I was doing, I needed to be there, if that makes sense. And in that, I realized I wasn't doing the creating. I feel like I wasn't doing the creating. I was always creating music, but as far as my experiences, it's almost like I've just been going so with the flow. I've just always, oh, I'm here. Oh, this is cool. And even in that, as I'm studying, I'm reading this book called Conscious Language. And even in that, being in those places that I just kind of felt like I popped up at, without a lack mindset, you can still talk like everybody around you. So I'm always optimistic. I've always felt like, oh, I have this, I got it, da 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 da. But even in my speech, just being around these other energies or atmospheres, I could still be speaking lack. So in a sense, what I wasn't creating what my being, what I should be and expressing in my being, I guess. So that, I don't know if I don't have an answer yet. That's just what I've grasped from my notes in this dialogue discussion so far.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah, I feel you. I understand you're speaking clearly. I understand. And it's so beautiful to feel the process of like, I don't really know yet, like, wow, like this is bringing up, those kind of questionings can bring up this massive potential shift in whether it's worldview or just like light. You're just like, I don't know yet. I have like but this is such powerful medicine to begin to just shift our attention and our awareness a little bit, and then see what arises through it, and the only thing I'd say, Trey, is someone said this to me the other day. It's like, don't should all over yourself. You said twice, like, where I should be or so and so, and that's another thing that I think we tend to do so much of, like, I should be doing this other thing. And it's really easy with this kind of questioning to think like, oh, I was doing this thing, I really should be doing this. And just also still holding that space for ourselves and that compassion for ourselves. Like, there's nothing wrong with what we're doing. We're it's a process, and we're on this journey together, and so there's nothing wrong where you are.
and it's so, at the same time, I don't know, it's hard to put these things into words sometimes, but at the same time, every one of those places I was at, I feel like I learned something at the same time. So it's so much balance. It's like should have, but at the same time, yes, that's exactly where you were supposed to be. But yes, all that.
All of it at once, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Trey. So nice to have you here. Thanks again for sharing.
Thank you all for this space.
Sindri wrote here, filling all of my time with things instead of making time to get quiet and let myself and my mind be simple. Well, I can relate to that one. I'm sure you speak clearly for many of us, Sindri, when you communicate that. It's really easier, and in my experience, less painful oftentimes to keep ourselves very, very, very busy, because sometimes when we do simplify and we do sit down and we release all of the busyness, it can be uncomfortable. It can be painful. to sit and be with ourselves. But my experience is that it also moves through only when we really sit with it and simplify, you know, that our tendency is to kind of make things more and more and more difficult so as not to actually simplify and turn inward. So yeah, thanks for that. And Ariel is saying, maybe it's a matter of wanting to make shifts because you have learned something from your past experiences and want to shift versus should. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks, Ariel. Yeah. Amen.
We've got Jen's got her hand up here too, so I'm going to unmute Jen here.
Hi.
Hi, Jen.
What was coming through for me with the simplifying is honoring. Just for me, I feel like I spend a lot of time in the becoming, and there's almost like a harshness in the becoming, in the need to become, in the need to wake up to, in the need to align, you know, and it feels like, and I keep just like crying lately because of this like perspective shift of just like honoring, you know, that which I already am, and being in a space to just celebrate that and enjoy. And same with like the people in my life and the world around me. And like the distraction comes for me with like worrying about other people and this kind of like savior complex. And yeah, so like it comes down to worthiness ultimately, and like an honoring of my gifts and giving myself the space to cultivate like that which already is, in a sense, instead of like getting to that place of being able to. Anyway, that's it.
I can totally relate. I'm sure you speak to many, if not all, of our hearts here in that space. It's being versus becoming, you know, it's that our capacity to become more of who we are is really most profound when we are anchored in who we are and our beingness. You know, we're just becoming more of who we are, where this tendency we have, I know I've been feeling this so much, is to, you know, oh my gosh, there is so much to do, right? You know, like there's so much to do, there's so much to learn, there's so much to know, there's so much to help, you know, to so much work to do out there in the world. And yet, where is our desire to, you know, be out there in the world, or to do something overshadowing our capacity to actually offer from a place of deep, deep, deep being and deep, deep, deep knowing. And then we end up kind of all scattered and out in the world, frayed and busy and exhausted. And so I'm just hearing this like, yeah, if I can just create the space to anchor and remember and exist in that which you already are, you know, all of that, who you are becoming comes naturally, you know. I mean, because it's there, like there, in a lot of ways, you know, there is nothing actually to become except for just you right here, right now. You know, the greatest thing for us to learn is to be present.
Yeah, and just, oh, sorry, one more thing. It feels like an honoring of the process as well, you know, like that's all I have to say about that.
We've got Ariel's hand is up as well, so I'm going to unmute her.
So I wrote down a lot of things, but the three words that kind of ended at the bottom of my page when it comes to like this busyness or like filling my time with extra stuff was control, avoidance, and value. And I feel like in a lot of ways, like being busy, especially if I'm doing a lot of things for other people or things in connection with other people or checking in with other people, it's like it's given me this sense of value and importance, you know, like that I'm needed out there in the world. And so instead of like finding that value in myself, like allowing myself to feel a sense of like good enoughness internally and just allowing the overflow of that to be what I give out to the world, it's like seeking for that validation that I have something to contribute or that I have value. And I do that, like for me, like social media is my is part of my career, and so I spend a lot of time that I don't need to, though. Like I could do my whole job in so much less time than I do on Instagram, but I find myself like seeking that like wasting a ton of extra time and just complicating something that doesn't need to be so complex because I find value in it. And then avoidance of like if there's like things happening in my personal life that I don't necessarily want to process, I'll fill my space. And I feel like avoidance and control kind of go together, because I can't control the things that are happening in my personal life, especially when there are other people involved, but I can control my schedule and I can pack it full. And, you know, it's funny because when you pack it full, you actually end up feeling out of control. But I feel like the initial stages of that are like that seeking of like having some sense of control. And that's been the control and out of control feeling has been what's been coming up so much for me over the last couple of weeks, because my life shifted a lot from what I was doing. So anyways, that's what came up.
Thanks, Ariel. So good to see you. Yeah, the control piece, this is a big lesson for all of us right now. Like, hey, guess what? You guys are actually not in control. And what does it really feel like to surrender and open into that? I think, you know, I want to be mindful of time too. We'll address this. We'll probably have one more share, and then Meg and I will address. We're going to offer. We have another offering we want to share with you guys about, you know, some practices and things that, like how to create the space for yourself. I hear so much of what all of us are saying, and Ariel, you articulate it so well. And you and I are very alike, so we can relate a lot, is when we fill our time with things, you know, or when we don't create that space for us to process. You said, like, I'm trying to avoid processing something on my own or something's painful, right? You know, what Meg and I are both so passionate about is how do we create those spaces for ourselves, whether it be through practices, movement, through meditation, through mantra, you know, how do we actually create those spaces for ourselves so that we can be with it all, process it all, be that container. And so, yeah, I'll get into address that a little bit more, but yeah, I laid down on my mat today. I was avoiding laying down because I started my moon and I was running around and I like had this tightness in my neck, and I just like touched my neck and I just started absolutely sobbing. Just was like, whoa, you know. I'm sure we've all had those moments, like, you know, you're just running around. Jennifer's saying the same thing. It's like, and you're just like crying, you know, and just this beautiful acceptance of, I feel like that's a wonderful sign that, like, okay, there's something here that's really moving through and processing, and there's nothing wrong with it. But how can we help to create, you know, meaning and value to those processes, and creating space to those processes for ourselves so that we can help create space and processes for one another, and then of course ripples out into the world. So thank you, Ariel. So let's do one more person. Do we have anyone else raising their hand? No? Okay. Meg, do you want to say anything, babe? Love to hear you.
No, I think that this is beautiful. I think everything that everyone said is really wonderful, and I'm just so grateful to be present for it all. So
So a little housekeeping. Yes, I will share the song. I'm gonna post it. Let me find it here for a second. That people are asking for the song. It is called, let me see, share. Let me see, I'm gonna drop it in right here to everyone, right there. It is in the song we listened to at the beginning. It's the Spotify link to it right there. And one thing, Meg, and I would like to share with you, and maybe Michelle, Craig, or maybe Meg, you can do it while I'm talking, or if you want to chime in. We are going to continue doing our gatherings, and I know next week we'll still have we'll keep having this Wednesday call, and we're going to go a little bit, continue with this thread of like, what does it mean to bring meaning in, like what is meaningful to us, what is that, and how do we bring meaning into our life, and uplift that which is valuable, and and then some more techniques and tools around this kind of simplification. But we're also really excited that we're going to offer a webinar at the end of this month. It is going to be a 6-hour webinar called Heart-Centered Leadership for Uncertain Times. It'll be just like this in a Zoom room, but we're also going to be working with little breakout groups and some movement practices and more meditation practices and things. Meg has put the link to the webinar information page here in the chat. I don't have it right in front of me, but it's like April 19th. We're doing a Sunday, a Wednesday, yeah, the 19th, the 22nd, and the 26th is when we'll have the webinar live. They're in 2-hour segments at a time. Yeah, there's information about it there, but I know what's really important for Meg and I, like we just talked about, is, what does it really mean to put the rubber to the road? What does it really mean to, like, we can talk about these things, we can, now we're in these like cyber lands where we're all meeting with one another, and we have the great privilege of sitting in these yoga classes and reading these books, and just what I love, like from the song earlier, like it's such a gift to come into human incarnation, into human awareness. And what does it mean to really take what we say we believe and what we desire and actually put it into action, and so this webinar is not about leadership. Like, you don't have to be a yoga teacher or a particular practitioner, or like a leader in your community or a leader online. You can be those things as well, but it's more so really understanding that the way that what it means to lead is to lead from this space that we've been cultivating, to be so strong and anchored in your connection to self, to truth, that your very way of being ripples out into the world, and this is what we need so much in our world right now. So our intention for, as we explore really bringing quality offerings to you and our community online at affordable pricing. We are going to have this webinar be a sliding scale, pay what you can, in a sliding scale window. And we really want to make it available to anyone who's interested. So if you or someone else is interested that can't make a payment within the range of the sliding scale, please, there's a note on the landing page there that you can message us about scholarship. And we will send a little bit more out in the email newsletter, and that page, excuse me, will have a little more info coming soon. Right now you can get on our wait list, our information list, and we'll be coming out with just a little bit more of the structure, which will be, like I said, 2 hours on a Sunday, 2 hours on a Wednesday, 2 hours on a Sunday, where we will meet and do some movement practice, do some breakout groups. There's some cool stuff you can do in Zoom where you can, we can break you guys into like groups of 5, and you guys can go into your own Zoom room and like have a conversation. And we really want to get into asking some bigger questions of like how to find some solutions and how to help to be the change that we're all longing to embody in this world. So I want to honor our time. And Meg, is there anything you want to say around the webinar?
No, I think you got it covered, hon. Thank you.
Well, thank you all of you for being here. And like we said, we will follow up with, you'll get another email. If you're not on the Experience Ashleigh email newsletter, go to, I'm going to put it in here, go to experiencealaya.com and make sure you sign up for the newsletter, because we will send, we're uploading all of these call recordings into YouTube, so you can watch them at a later date if you want to go through this practice again. And we'll also be sending more information out about the webinar and other offerings and things. So thank you so much for being here. It's so beautiful to see all your faces. And there's also, I'm not sure if she's still on here. I know there's some, looks like Emily is still on here. Would you drop Emily, I know, has been teaching some really beautiful donation-based online live Zoom room classes. And she's an incredible teacher. She's one of our senior teachers and apprentices, and about to be on faculty here with Alaya. There she is. There's her beautiful face. Hey, and if anyone else is offering or putting any free offerings, or any, Ariel's are there too. Thanks, Ariel. I didn't see that you were doing those. Awesome. I was going to ask you too. Ariel's on our Alaya faculty as well. She's an incredible teacher. These gals have been working with Meg and I for a long time. So Ariel dropped hers in here. Emily can drop hers in there. I'm just going to type her name. It's Emily Rose, will be her on Instagram. That's where I think she's doing a lot of her info about it. And so just be with one another. Go out and explore. If you're new to the community, check everyone out. And look forward to seeing all of you here soon. Maybe we do have the Facebook group too. That was the other thing. I don't know if Meg or Michelle Craig, we can send the link to the Facebook group out in the newsletter as well, the follow-up newsletter. But we can continue these conversations throughout the week in the Facebook group as well. So thank you so much for being here. Love you all. So great to be with you. Sending much love. Stay home, take care of yourself, take care of one another, be in nature, and we'll see you next week. Yeah, and I won't end this just yet. So if you want to look, I'll leave it open for another minute or two so you guys can look in the chat if